Ever felt a little different? Like those quirky habits you have, the ones people might even call weird, are actually something more? What if those oddities are secret signals? Whispers from your highly intelligent brain that most people just don't pick up on. We're about to peel back the curtain on the everyday behaviors that, surprisingly, can point to a mind working on a whole other level. You might find yourself nodding along, maybe even feeling a little called out in the best way possible. So if you've ever wondered why you do the things you do, stick around. We're diving deep into 10 surprising traits that could mean you're way smarter than you give yourself credit for. Get ready, because you might just discover you're in very good, very brainy company, and you'll definitely want to see if our number one habit is something you secretly do. All right, let's talk about food. Does the thought of eating chicken and rice day in and day out, or the exact same breakfast smoothie every single morning make you yawn? Well, hold that thought, because what looks like culinary monotony could actually be a telltale sign of a seriously sharp intellect. You see, highly intelligent folks often become masters at sidestepping something called decision fatigue. Think about it. Every tiny choice, from what socks to wear to what to have for breakfast, chips away at your precious mental energy. It's like your brain has a limited battery, and the more trivial decisions you make, the faster that battery drains, leaving you with less juice for the really big, complex problems that truly demand your attention. So, when someone famous like Steve Jobs rocked the same black turtleneck every single day, or Mark Zuckerberg sticks to his simple gray tees, they weren't being fashion backward or lazy. They were strategically cutting out the small, low-impact decisions to save their cognitive resources for the heavy lifting. For many brilliant minds, applying this same streamlined logic to meals, say that predictable bowl of oatmeal or that trusty salad combo, is a genius move. It's not about being unadventurous with food, it's about simplifying one area of life to free up incredible amounts of mental bandwidth for innovation, problem solving, or deep creative work. Research even backs this up, showing that solid routines can actually supercharge your productivity and dial down anxiety by creating a predictable, stable foundation. So the next time you see someone sticking to their dietary script, don't assume they're dull. They might just be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, conserving their brain power for the moves that truly matter, busy outsmarting the daily grind. Picture this. You've spent hours, maybe even days, crafting the most intricate, beautifully organized life system imaginable. Your Notion dashboard is a masterpiece of interconnected databases. Your 6 planners are color-coded with military precision, and your habit tracker has more complex rules than international airspace regulations. You feel a surge of accomplishment looking at this perfect blueprint for productivity. And yet somehow, by Wednesday, you're back to eating cereal for lunch at 2 p.m., wondering where the heck the day vanished, and those glorious systems are gathering digital dust. If this sounds painfully familiar, don't beat yourself up thinking it's laziness. This is classic high-functioning overthinker behavior, often seen in people with above-average intelligence. The truth is, individuals with remarkably sharp minds often derive immense satisfaction from the process of designing and building complex systems to optimize every facet of life. The intellectual challenge, the problem solving, the sheer elegance of a perfectly conceived plan. That's where the thrill lies. It's like your brain is a brilliant city planner, meticulously drafting a utopian metropolis, but not necessarily the construction worker who has to lay every brick. Why the abandonment? Because for these minds, the intellectual mountain has already been climbed during the design phase. The execution can feel, well, a bit mundane in comparison. You haven't failed, you've simply enjoyed the mental gymnastics of creation more than the routine of implementation. You had a brilliant system, you just got so absorbed in perfecting the map that you forgot to actually embark on the journey. So, you've just navigated a lively party or a bustling social event. While some folks are buzzing, ready for the after party, your internal monologue is screaming for the sweet, sweet embrace of noise-canceling headphones and the blissful solitude of a locked bathroom. If your social battery plummets faster than a lead balloon after a few hours of interaction, that's not you being rude or antisocial. Think of it as essential mental maintenance, a common trait among the highly intelligent. Research consistently shows that people with higher cognitive abilities often lean more towards introverted tendencies, not because they dislike people, but because of how their brains process social information. These individuals tend to analyze conversations more deeply, pick up on a wider array of subtle social cues, and internally process interactions with greater intensity. Every glance, every shift in tone, every unspoken implication gets logged and examined. This intense level of processing, while allowing for richer understanding, also burns through mental energy at an accelerated rate. In fact, one fascinating study found that highly intelligent individuals often reported less life satisfaction when they socialized more frequently than what felt natural to them. Their brilliant brains often prefer and even require solo mode for crucial activities like reflection, creative ideation, and problem solving. So, if you find yourself needing to vanish after a period of small talk for a full system reboot, don't feel guilty. Your brain isn't antisocial, it's just incredibly busy being smart, and it needs that quiet time to recharge and do its best work. Is your internal clock perpetually set to night owl, even when you have absolutely no pressing reason to be wide awake at 2 a.m.? If you find yourself doing your best thinking or simply feeling most alert while the rest of the world is deep in slumber, it might not just be a quirky sleep schedule or a bout of insomnia. Intriguingly, it could be a subtle indicator of high intelligence. A growing body of research has started to link this nocturnal preference with higher IQ scores. It seems that late sleepers or night owls often demonstrate superior performance in areas like abstract thinking, creativity, and complex problem solving. It's as if their brains don't just quietly power down when the sun sets. For some, that's when they truly kick into high gear, unfettered by the distractions of the daytime world. And no, this isn't just about gamers glued to their screens or people endlessly doom-scrolling. History is peppered with some of its brightest minds who were notorious night owls. Think Charles Darwin, Winston Churchill, even Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. One prevailing theory suggests that smarter brains might possess a greater ability to override natural biological rhythms, like the circadian clock, allowing them to stay mentally active and productive when most others are conserving energy. So if you're the one crafting brilliant ideas, solving intricate puzzles, or feeling a surge of creative energy while the city sleeps, you're not necessarily weird. You might just be operating on genius mode, powered by the quiet hum of the midnight hour. Does your soul begin to wither just a little when someone enthusiastically starts discussing the weather forecast or launches into a detailed monologue about their neighbor's cat's dietary preferences? If superficial chit-chat makes you feel your will to live slowly dissolving, take heart. This aversion to small talk might actually be good news, signaling a highly intelligent mind at work. Smart brains, by their very nature, crave depth, substance, and meaningful stimulation. They're wired to explore complex ideas, unravel intricate patterns, and engage in thought-provoking discussions, not to just skim the surface with polite but ultimately empty pleasantries about humidity levels. It's not that you inherently dislike people or lack social skills. Far from it. It's more that you find it incredibly challenging, almost physically taxing, to feign interest in topics that feel trivial or offer no intellectual nourishment. Researchers often refer to this as a heightened need for meaningful stimulation. You might call it that moment you find yourself staring blankly into space while someone meticulously explains the ingredients of their lunchtime salad. Because while many folks are perfectly content swapping conversational fluff, your brain is likely off tackling existential crises, mentally rewriting the laws of physics, or architecting a solution to global warming, all while trying to maintain polite eye contact. So the next time you zone out during the mundane hump day updates, know that you're not being rude. You're simply operating on a premium, high-speed intellectual bandwidth, while the small talk feels like it's stuck on an ancient dial-up connection. You had 2 full weeks to complete that important project. You probably even thought about it, maybe jotted down a few notes. But the real, focused work? That didn't kick in until about 2 hours before the absolute unmovable deadline. And yet somehow, against all odds, you didn't just scrape by, you absolutely crushed it, delivering something brilliant. If this high-wire act sounds like your standard operating procedure, you might dismiss it as laziness or poor time management. But hold on, because this tendency to delay and then conquer under immense pressure is a known and rather fascinating quirk often observed in highly intelligent minds. Some of history's most brilliant thinkers were, in fact, expert procrastinators. Leonardo da Vinci, for instance, famously took around 16 years to finish the Mona Lisa. The celebrated author Douglas Adams, creator of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, once quipped, "I love deadlines. I love the whooshing sound they make as they fly by. So, what's the deal? Why does this pattern emerge?" It's believed that high IQ brains often need that surge of adrenaline and the intense pressure of an impending deadline to effectively shut out distractions and unlock a state of hyperfocus. They're not necessarily avoiding the work out of indolence. Rather, they might be subconsciously waiting for that perfect storm of urgency, a dash of panic, and perhaps a caffeine chaser to summon their most potent ideas and work at peak efficiency. It's as if the looming consequence sharpens their mental faculties. So, if you only truly come alive, creatively and productively, when the clock is relentlessly ticking down, you're not broken or undisciplined. You're just cooking with mental jet fuel on a 5-minute timer, a unique process that, for you, yields extraordinary results. Have you ever crafted what you believe to be a hilariously witty, multi-layered joke, perhaps involving a clever pun, an obscure historical reference, or a dash of dark irony, only to be met with blank stares? You unleash your comedic gem like, "My ex is like a quantum particle, simultaneously existing in a state of being annoying and also not being here, which is great," and your friend Karen just blinks at you over her mimosa, utterly perplexed. If you found yourself in this situation where you're laughing uproariously at your own wit while everyone else is still trying to decode the setup, congratulations. Research suggests that people with higher IQs often possess a distinct preference for complex humor. They appreciate sophisticated wordplay, subtle satire, dark irony, and references that require a bit more cognitive effort to get. For these minds, the weirder, more abstract, or intellectually layered the punchline, the sharper and more satisfying the humor. If you've ever had to patiently explain your own joke, perhaps even resorting to a mental diagram to illustrate the comedic connections, you might just be a comedic genius inadvertently trapped in a world that doesn't always operate on your intellectual wavelength. Don't be discouraged. Keep dropping those cerebral zingers. While they might not always land with the mainstream crowd, they're a testament to your quick mind and unique perspective. Someday, you'll find your people who appreciate your particular brand of brilliance, or at the very least, a dedicated Reddit thread that totally gets it. If you've ever mentally rehearsed your simple coffee order 5 times in your head, then approached the counter, panicked anyway, and blurted out something like, "Medium large hot please, thank you, you too," when they just said, "Good morning," you might be far smarter than your perceived social grace suggests. That feeling of always being a bit socially awkward, of overthinking interactions until they become mental obstacle courses, is often surprisingly linked to higher intelligence. Studies have indicated that highly intelligent individuals tend to overanalyze social situations to an extraordinary degree. They're not inherently bad at socializing. Often, they're just thinking too much about every word, every gesture, every possible interpretation and outcome. While others are effortlessly chatting about their weekend plans or the latest viral video, your brain might be stuck in a mental buffering loop. Did my handshake last too long or was it too short? Should I have mentioned my cat or was that an overshare? She said, "Have a nice day," and I said, "You too." But what if she's working all day and can't have a nice day? Oh no. It's an internal monologue of intense scrutiny. Think of historical figures like Einstein, who was known for his social eccentricities, or Isaac Newton, who practically invented the concept of happily staying inside. High IQs can sometimes come with a lower tolerance for conversational fluff and a higher propensity for intricate social calculus. So, if your brain occasionally turns simple handshakes into complex boss battles, relax. You're not weird. Your cognitive processor is just overclocked, analyzing the world with incredible, sometimes overwhelming, detail. Is your default response to almost any statement, instruction, or established norm a curious but why? If your first instinct is to dig deeper, to understand the underlying mechanics, reasons, and implications, rather than simply accepting things at face value, you might just be running on some serious high-octane cognitive horsepower. Studies in cognitive psychology have consistently linked higher intelligence with a trait known as low cognitive closure. This essentially means that the need for quick, definitive answers feels far less urgent than the profound need for genuine, thorough understanding. Smart people are comfortable navigating ambiguity for longer periods. They'd much rather meticulously investigate a matter from all angles than settle for a superficial or incomplete truth. This inherent curiosity and drive for deeper comprehension is precisely why highly intelligent individuals often find themselves challenging established norms, questioning authority, constructively, of course, and even rigorously re-evaluating their own long-held opinions and beliefs. It's not about being contrarian for the sake of it, or deliberately trying to be difficult. It's simply the natural way their brains process information, constantly scanning for logical consistency, seeking evidence, and striving for a more nuanced and accurate picture of reality. Albert Einstein famously called this drive holy curiosity. Socrates practically built an entire philosophical career out of it. So, the next time someone sighs and asks, "Why can't you just go with the flow?" you can just smile enigmatically and perhaps think to yourself, "Because I'm too busy figuring out how to reroute the entire river for optimal efficiency and understanding." When faced with a flat-pack piece of furniture and a dauntingly thick instruction manual, is your gut reaction not to meticulously follow step 1A, but to toss the booklet aside with a confident, "Nah, I'll figure it out myself"? If this sounds like you, whether it's assembling furniture without guidance, baking cookies by instinct rather than measuring cups, or generally preferring to reverse engineer how things work, then congratulations. You might be operating with a high-spec brain that thrives on independent problem-solving. Curious minds don't just blindly follow rules and instructions. They have an innate desire to test them, to understand the why behind the how, and often to see if they can find a better, more intuitive way. This isn't about chaos or a disregard for order. For many intelligent individuals, it's a hands-on form of scientific exploration, albeit sometimes with a few leftover screws. Research links this tendency to a fascinating trait called need for cognition. Essentially, this describes people who genuinely get a kick out of thinking things through for themselves, who enjoy the mental exercise of grappling with a problem and arriving at their own solution. They find satisfaction in the process of discovery and self-directed learning. So, if you've ever completely disassembled a perfectly functional coffee machine just to see how it ticks, and maybe to check if the manual was telling the whole truth, that's not stubbornness or a quirky obsession. That's your DIY IQ in full, glorious action, embracing the challenge and trusting your own ability to understand the world. Have you ever found yourself genuinely apologizing to a chair after bumping into it in the dark? Or perhaps you felt a strange pang of guilt when finally deciding to throw out that ancient, hole-ridden pair of socks that has seen you through countless adventures. If you catch yourself assigning personalities to your belongings or feeling an emotional connection to inanimate objects, you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. In fact, this tendency to get emotionally attached to non-living things can often be a surprising sign of high emotional intelligence and empathy. Researchers believe this phenomenon stems from something called anthropomorphism, the very human tendency to project human feelings, intentions, and characteristics onto non-human entities. While it might seem a bit whimsical, this ability is intricately linked to higher levels of empathy, creativity, and social intelligence. It suggests a mind that is highly attuned to discerning and understanding states in others, and this capacity can spill over into how you perceive the world around you, including objects. So, you're not weird for naming your trusty Roomba Dusty, or feeling a twinge of sadness when your childhood stuffed animal ends up packed away in storage. Your brain simply doesn't draw such a hard, unfeeling line between people and things, showcasing a depth of connection. Go ahead and apologize to that coffee table you just stubbed your toe on. It's not cringe, it's a quiet nod to your profound emotional depth. So, how many of these resonated with you? Did any of these quirks hit a little too close to home, making you nod your head and think, "Yep, that's totally me"? It's fascinating how these seemingly odd behaviors can actually be subtle indicators of a mind that's working in extraordinary ways. Let us know in the comments below which of these traits you recognize in yourself or someone you know. If this video made you feel a little more understood, or maybe even a little proud of your unique way of navigating the world, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most unconventional paths are paved by the brightest minds. We'll catch you in the next one.